Good day, boys and girls. Let me set the timer. There we go. Today we're going to be covering material in Chapter 8, Lesson 1, Fractions and Division. Now, before you see this video, you need to watch the pre-video for the proper vocabulary to be dealing with in terms of fractions, because I'm just going to be using that vocabulary in this video, thinking that you will have watched the pre-video so that you'll know what the words mean. So please do that. So when we look at a fraction, such as this one, we know that the numerator on top and the denominator on the bottom are separated by a fraction bar or division bar. That's because all fractions are actually division. You never get away from division. You can't. So if you were to look at this fraction as a picture, it would look like this. Oh, hang on, Mike. It's over here. Okay. All right. Here's what it looks like. Remember our Hershey bars. We have one whole Hershey bar. It is divided into 4 pieces, and we get 3 of the 4 pieces. This is an illustration of the fraction 3 over 4. Does that make sense? Okay. So if we had a situation where we have 3 pans of lasagna, that's why we're in my kitchen, because fractions is all about cooking and food. So if we had 3 pans of lasagna and we wanted to divide it up between 4 different families, this is what the fraction would look like. So how much does each family get? Well, they don't get a whole pan of lasagna each, because that would be 4 pans of lasagna and we only have 3. So what do? Well, we can change the format of this fraction by taking away the division bar and setting it up in a division box. What does that look like? Well, it's easy to do if you know that a numerator is also a dividend and the denominator is the divisor. So now we've changed our fraction into division words, and once we know that, we can change our division bar into a division box, like that. How many times does 4 go into 3? Well, don't sit there and say, well, 4 doesn't go into 3. I know that. So what do? We use decimals. This is where decimal division comes in. So the first thing we do is we put in our decimal. We know that with every whole number, it has a decimal. You just can't see it. So I put my decimal after my 3. Then my decimal floats up. And now I can use as many zeros as I like behind the 3 and not change the value. It's still 3, right? It's still 3. So now, how many times does 4 go into 30? Well, I know that 4 times 7 gives me 28, and that's close, right? 28. Now I subtract. Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. So I bring down my next 0. How many times does 4 go into 20? It goes in 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20, which gives me 0. So 4 divided by 3 is 75 hundredths, or 3/4. Each family would get 3/4 of a pan of lasagna. And that's how I solve that problem. Now, what happens if you have an improper fraction where your numerator is larger than your denominator? Well, that's even easier. You can go through with a division box and do the whole division and get your answer, and that's totally legit. And if you want to try that, you can pause the video and go do that. But there is an easier way. So here is an example of my improper fraction, 5/4. So if you ask yourself, well, how many times does 4 go into 5? Well, it only goes in one time, one whole time, right? So we get 1 whole. So my remainder, 5 take away 4, gives me a remainder of 1, which we know is our numerator of 1. And our denominator, of course, stays the same, 4. So 5/4 as a mixed number is 1 1/4. So you can do the whole division box, or you can think it through. And a lot of times it's easier to think it through. So today, your assignment for today is in volume 2, page 553 of your My Math book. And let's take a look at that, because this is not a difficult assignment, but it's kind of tricky. So take a look at page 553. Go ahead and open your book and take a look at that page. It says, represent each situation using a model, then solve. I don't even know what that means. Do they want you to draw a picture? I don't know. You can. When I solved these, I didn't. Here's what I did. Let's take a look at, you have questions 2, 3, and 4. And you'll notice that in each of these questions, toward the bottom, it says, so 5 divided by 4 equals, and they want you to do a fraction. In number 3, so 6 divided by 5, they want you to do a fraction. So I kind of started near the end, and that gave me my fraction. And here's a hint. It's going to be an improper fraction. All of them are going to be improper fractions. So when you go to that so line and you get your improper fraction, then you can pop back up to where, for example, in question 2, it says each family receives. Well, it's the same answer as your improper fraction. And then they want you to take your improper fraction and change it into a mixed number. How do you do that? Well, a couple ways. You can either think it through, if it's an easy one, like my example was pretty easy, or you can do the division with a box. Pretty simple. But that's my hint, is don't start at the top of the question. It's always a good idea to read through an entire question before you start doing it. Because sometimes you'll find that where you need to start isn't where the question starts. So you do what you need to do to think through the question. It doesn't always start at the top. But if you have any questions while you're doing this assignment, raise your hand and the nice lady will answer your questions and help you out. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed my lasagna question in my little kitchen, and I will see you again next time. Bye now.